Oh my god, here we go again. This is complete and utter nonsense, and like, I'm a Colonial player through and through, but for Pete's sake, this is just so one-sided. What the heck? And you wanna know the dumbest thing? It's because of the new heavy fighter. For Pete's sake. Yeah, word is on the grapevine that a lot of the big warden regiments went Colonial, so the reason this war is basically being cut so short is because of player imbalance is because, well, it's 5 Colonials to every 1 warden. Good lord. And the reason all these warden regiments went Colonial is because they want to try out the new heavy fighter in a live war. For Pete's sake, good lord. This is the same freaking bullcrap they pulled with the freaking naval update. You know how when we started, the Colonials only had a destroyer and the Wardens only had the submarine? This is the same freaking bullcrap. I thought they stopped this stuff. But no, I guess I was wrong. They're doing the same bullcrap. And lo and behold, with surprise to absolutely no one, it's causing problems. Did the devs not learn that nobody liked the fact that only the Colonials got a dive bomber and only the Wardens got a torpedo bomber? Do they not understand that nobody likes that? And the Colonials want their own torpedo bomber and the Wardens want their own close air support. So now they've just doubled down and given only the Colonials a heavy fighter. Great, great, great. Yeah, fantastic. Don't listen to community dev, man. Just go on your little warpath where you do your vision and just not listen to us. Now we're seeing the consequences of those actions. Because everyone wants to try out the new heavy fighter, nobody gets to try out the new heavy fighter because the war is going to end before the heavy fighter gets teched. Fantastic. The one thing I find really crazy is that the update that the heavy fighter was released on, this update, coincides with an East to West war. We haven't done an East to West war in quite a bit, actually. And which is also funny because, in East to West war, the factions don't have the same, natural bottlenecks that they usually have to push through. They don't have the same bottlenecks that usually keep them from advancing so much and so far early on in the war. So the Colonials get this piece of equipment that's going to be exclusive to their faction, at least for a while, because you know how slow DevMan is. And on top of that, there's an East to West war that makes it where it's easier to push and, win the war because you don't have as many bottlenecks and choke points. So you have something that encourages multiple people to join the Colonial side during the war. At the same time, the Colonials aren't going to have the usual bottlenecks keeping them back early on in the war. And the cherry on top was the fact that the Colonials were on a complete and utter losing streak for pretty much the entire year up until, well, about, I guess, like a few weeks ago now. Folks, let me talk here. I'm a diehard Colonial player. Blue bad. Grr. Don't like the Wardens, not blueberry. Nope. Proud Colonial here. So, now let me put on my tinfoil hat. I think that all of this is deliberate. Now, because think about it. The Colonials were on a losing streak for half the year. And pretty much ever since the initial Airborne update came out. And, obviously, the devs knew about this, right? Because how would they not know? And obviously, one faction being on a losing streak and not being able to win wars is bad. It's bad for the game, and it's bad for the longevity of the game. Eventually, if they keep losing, all the Colonial players will just quit. And then your game will be broken and be incredibly imbalanced due to the population. So, how do you prevent that from happening? And another thing, how do you do that in the laziest way possible? Because, this is Siege Camp we're talking about. Okay, maybe lazy is a bit too harsh. It's more like a quick stopgap method. Give the Colonials a win now. Because, Siege Camp is a small indie team that has racked up a massive amount of technical debt when it comes to balancing of the game. I mean, good example, the Ares super heavy tank on the Colonial side and the Alto storm rifle on the Warden side. Both those things are just horribly imbalanced, and they have been for a while, and the devs are still yet to fix that kind of stuff. So the devs need a quick solution to a Colonial losing streak. And lo and behold, there's an easy solution that pretty much anyone could think of. Just make the factions imbalanced. Ah, but how would you go about discreetly making the factions imbalanced? You can't just go and buff all the colonial equipment so it's overpowered. That would really piss off everyone. So you have to do it subtly and sneakily. The player base is quite used to one side having equipment that the other side doesn't. I mean, the airborne update is a good example. The Colonials have their dive bomber, the Wardens have their torpedo bomber. So, let's give the Colonials a piece of equipment that will be exclusive to their faction. And we'll give the Wardens nothing. Oh, but we won't give the Wardens outright nothing. We'll remind them that we still care about them. We'll, update the, let's see, what's something that's imbalanced? Oh yeah, their paratrooper plane. We, messed up when making the doors. It's a fatal funnel, yeah. Yeah, so let's update the doors on the Warden paratrooper plane so they don't get stuck while trying to jump out of it. Yeah. Meanwhile, we'll give the Colonial something big, bold, and new. A real nice addition to the game that people really do want. Oh yeah, we haven't added the heavy fighters to the game yet. You know, heavy fighters, that very important design class of pre-World War II period fighters. You know, those big things that were designed to act as long-range escorts or bomber destroyers. Yeah, that very important and crucial aspect for gaining and maintaining air superiority. Yes, let's give that exclusively to the Colonials. And because it's this big, shiny, and new thing that only the Colonials will have, it will convince a lot of people to go Colonial this war. And since everyone wants to go Colonial, it will naturally put the population balance in favor of the Colonials. And should that not be enough for them to win the war, well, like we said, a heavy fighter is a very important design class for gaining and maintaining air superiority. Those Warden bombers won't know what hit them. And just to be on the safe side, we'll make it an east to west war. That way, the now overpopulated Colonial faction won't have all those pesky bottlenecks to keep them at bay. Their high population will allow them to make tangible early gains and they'll quickly entrench themselves, denying the Wardens an easy victory. With all the pieces in place, the Colonials will surely win, and the losing streak for them will finally have been broken. All the pieces will fall into place, and us devs can rest assured that we've managed to maintain our game. Perhaps not in the most ethical way, but we've kept things from spiraling out of control for us. Well, of course we know that War 139 isn't the Colonials' big break. The Colonials won 138. The losing streak has ended, and we didn't need some sort of meddling from the devs in order to achieve that. Which makes me think that, because I still believe that this war was deliberately rigged in favor of the Colonials. So it makes me think that this plan was probably concocted around like War 137, before the Colonials actually won a war this year. Yeah, it was probably concocted around like the tail end of War 137. They realized that the Colonials were going to lose another war, and they need to put their heads together and figure out how to prevent the Colonials from losing again. But of course, they still had to release Update 65 as is. Wouldn't be enough time to change things in Update 65. So they wait until Update 66 to skew things in favor of the Colonials. I mean, that's my theory. I know it's a conspiracy theory, but that's generally my theory. Again, diehard Colonial player here. I'm a diehard Colonial. Again, I'm not a warden. I'm not some salty warden who's upset about, the new Colonial toy or just the fact that the wardens are getting curb stomped this war. No. I believe, as a diehard Colonial player, that Update 66 was a stopgap measure to stop the Colonial losing streak. I mean, just think about it. How convenient that when the Colonials get their new heavy fighter, it's not a normal war, it's an east to west war. How convenient. Someone please, if I'm wrong, correct me in the comments, but I don't remember there was ever an update where one or both of the factions get some new equipment, and it's also an east to west war. It's every time the factions get new equipment, it's always north to south. It's always north to south. It's never a relic war, it's never east to west, it's always north to south every time the factions get new equipment. So why is it east to west now? I think that this war was completely rigged. Everything about it is just wrong. Instead of fixing the drastic asymmetry and actually giving the Wardens their own dive bomber and the Colonials their own torpedo bomber, they just went ahead and did this. Because think about it, if the devs actually fixed the bad asymmetry, well then there's still a good chance that the Colonials would have lost War 139. And the Colonials need to win, and they really need to win soon, otherwise they'll become discouraged and stop playing the game. And then that will make everything worse. That'll only escalate the Colonial losing problem. So the solution is to make one of the updates very, very, very biased in the Colonial's favor. Rig one of the wars. That way, they'll win and the faction won't become discouraged. Yeah, it makes too much sense. It makes way too much sense, especially with the 6-week update cycle. You give the Colonials their heavy fighter, and just pretty much just a little more than a month later, you give the Wardens their heavy fighter. The Colonial losing streak will end, the Colonial players will still be invested in the game and won't become discouraged, and of course you're releasing updates every 6 weeks now, so eventually in 6 weeks the Wardens will get their own heavy fighter and everything will be hunky-dory again. That's it. That's got to be it, because at the end of the day, how do you not realize that giving one faction a nice new shiny new toy will encourage people to play that faction? You know, that would naturally offset the population into that faction's favor. And on top of that, it's an expensive new toy, which only the medium to large regiments can make. So this shiny new toy would attract medium to large regiments over to the other faction. And lo and behold, it has. Or at least that's what the grapevine has told me. So, yeah. I guess it's time to now land this proverbial plane, a pun not really intended. This update, it just reeks of rigging. This War 139, is definitely rigged in favor of the Colonials. It was deliberately rigged by the devs. Because how else do you explain this? Are you just... Because the alternative explanation is that the devs are just so incompetent and stupid that they didn't realize that this would be the outcome. Like, that's the alternative explanation. It's either it's a conspiracy and the war was rigged, or the devs are just that stupid. I'm outraged. I'm just genuinely just outraged at this. Like, there wasn't even anything good to do this war. Like, it's pretty much just... I'm like looking at the stats right now. We're like at let's see here. At the time I'm recording this last bit, we're at hang on, let me pause this. Yeah, I've got the Foxhole stats pulled up right here. 30 victory points in 5 days and 10 hours. Unfreaking believable. There wasn't even anything worth doing this war as a Colonial player. Like, supply lines were just stretched so incredibly thin. Like, half the time all you really had was rifles at the forward bases. Nothing else. Like, just nothing else. Just rifles. That would be it. I swear, every freaking update seems to just be getting... Like, it's not even every update. Like, update 65 was decent. They gave us those cool little naval bases and stuff. Like, that was nice. And then they turn around and do this. Just... every freaking day, Airborne is just looking worse and worse. Come on. Anyways, that'll be it for this video. I'll catch y'all later.